Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Welcome back. Masechta Shevuos Daf Lamed Gimel. We're starting the Mishnah. Mashbi'ani Aleichem. So we're in the middle of Shevuos Eidus, and we started in yesterday's Daf Shevuos Eidus Keitzad, right? And we're continuing with that. Here we have a case. Tevea says to two people, Mashbi'ani Aleichem loisevoyu usuduni sheyesh to be at plani pikodna to masyad the gezla aveda. He's got a whole list. Whole laundry list on somebody. He says, a guy owes me money, right? A guy stole money from me. I gave him a pikadon, he's holding on to it. He's not paying me back a loan. And they respond, and they know about all of it. But in their Shevuah, and their reply, they say, Shevuah she'ein l'chaydas. We know nothing. That's their Shevuah. And it's sheker, ein chayovin ela achas. Even though he asks them to testify on a whole list of things, but since their Shevuah was collective statement, we don't know one statement, that's only one chiyuv, one kfira. But if they were mefaret, and they said Shevuah she'ein on yoidin sheyesh lecha biyot plani pikodon sumasyad vegezel aveda, right? They enumerated each one, chayav el kol achas ve'achas, then they're chayav on each one. Mashbi'ani aleichem le'sevay v'sid sheyesh biyot plani pikodon. Please, he enforces a Shevuah on these two guys to come testify that he has by somebody else a pikadon chitin sa'orin v'kusman. And they say Shevuah she'ein on yoid l'chaydos. Again, they respond in one denial. Ein chayim l'achas, it's only one. But Shevuah she'ein on yoid l'chaydos sheyesh l'chaydos chitin sa'orin v'kusman. They enumerated. Then again, chayim l'chayachas v'achas. Then they're chayiv in each one. Last case in the Mishnah. Mashbi'ani aleichem at yavoyu iduni sheyesh l'biyat ploini. Nezek v'chatzi nezek, Shlomi Keifel, Shlomi Tal Vehei, Rabbi Chamisha, She'onas, Shploni as biti, Apita as biti, Shekane B'ni, V'shechal B'chaveru, Shedek K'dish B'yam Kippur, V'arei L'chiyavan. Here, the Gemara is going to discuss what the Chiddush on each of these cases are. So let's see the Gemara right away. Says the Gemara, Iboilu, Shailu like this, Mashbiya Eidei Knas. Till now we talked about where Teveya asks two people to come and give testimony on Momen. Right? A guy stole something from him, a guy is not paying him back halva. What about a guy who's asking two Edom to testify that somebody else owes him a knas? So, and they deny and refuse to give that testimony. Are they chayiv Shevuos Eidus or not? We're going to explain what the shaila is. There's a halacha moed b'knas is potter. But if Edom come afterward, and after the Haidah, right, and they say, no, he's chayiv, even though the guy was already Moida, right, Lozer Hashem says, the Haidah doesn't help to pater you, and you become chayiv. Now, by the way, just like a little bit of akdama, why is Moida b'knas pater? How do we know this? So, pasuk of the Torah, the pasuk says, Asher yarshiyun Elohim. A Bezdin is mechayiv you, and the Gemara darshans prat la marshia es atzmai. That's only if Bezdin is mechayiv you, but not if you are mechayiv yourself, right? In other words, the knas ashishilim yishalim shnayim l're'eyu. The kefil is only if Bezdin is mechayiv you. So shaila is like this: Tanoim and Amram are chaylik. When we say prat la marshia es atzmai, does that mean that you don't have the power to be mechayiv yourself, but in other words, if Moida, you can't be mechayiv yourself because you're Mashiach Satzmai. But if two Edom come, Avadi, you'd be mechayiv, right? Bezdin could still be mechayiv you. Or do you say, no, Prat la Mashiach Satzmai. You cannot, once you're Mashiach Satzmai, that's nifra, that's already excluded from the parsha of Knas. And even if Edom come afterwards, it's not going to help. That's really the Machlokes of Rabbi Shimon and the Rabbanan we're going to see right now. Whether, if a guy is Moida b'Knas, and then Edom come, right? Moida b'Knas achakach bo Edom, he's Potter or Chayiv. Rabbi Shimon says he's Chayiv. And the Rabbanan says he's Potter. Now we come to the Shaila. Okay. If a guy tells two Edom, says, come testify that Yankel owes me knas, and they refuse, Edom refused to testify on his behalf, and now he loses the knas, is that called Hefsed Mammon? Maybe not. Because Yankel could have run to Bezdin, he could have been Moida, and he would have been Potter anyway. In other words, could you call that a Hefsed Mammon? Right? Because again, the Shevuos Eidos is only when they refuse to testify and it causes them a loss. But if we're dealing with Knas, and Moed B'Knas is Pater, so it's not a certain monetary loss. It's not for sure. Because he might have been Moed. Says the Gemara, but Aliba, the Reb Lozer, Reb Shimon, Teboilach, Damar Yevoid Veyidu, that even if he's Moed and Eidim come afterwards, he's Chayev. Avada! They're Chayev Shevuos Eidos. Because their testimony, regardless of the guy's Eidah, would have been Chayev money. Ki Teboilach, Aliba the Rabbanan. Shaila is according to Rabbanan who say the Amri, Moed B'Knas v'chakach b'Oid Potter. Now the question becomes, can you classify this as a hefsed moment? Can you label this? Can you consider this as a hefsed moment? Maybe not. Maybe not, because Moed B'Knas is Potter. He could have run to Bezdin. He could have potted himself, and it wouldn't have helped to bring Edom afterwards. That's the Shaila. That's the big Eboilu in this Gemara. Gemara says not so fast. Even according to Rabbanan who say Moed B'Knas Potter, and it doesn't help if Edom come afterwards, it's not so poshut that that it's not called a hefsed moment. Unless Rabbanan Dahasan Keman Svirlu Ile Mikra Blaz Reb Shimon Dahacha. If Rabbanan over there who say Moed B'Knas v'chakach bo Edom is Potter hold like Reb Blaz Reb Shimon over here, who says Haka Dovar Gam Lama Kamam Dami. If they hold Dovar Gam Lama Kamam Dami, then it also wouldn't be a shaila, because Lama Zagin, let's just say Moed B'Knas Potter, even if Edom come afterwards, but it's not clear that the guy would have been Moeda. At this stage in the game, when I ask the Edom to testify on my behalf, their Haggadas Edis could be Goyrim Lamaman. Right? It's something that could be Goyrim Lamaman. And if you hold Goyrim Lamaman as Kamam Dami, then Avad is Chayiv Shevuos Edis. Elo, the Uboilu can only stand, right? This Shaila is only standing if Kirabanan Da'acha, if those Chachamim are saying Moed B'Knas v'chakach Potter hold like Rabbanan Da'acha, the Amri Davar Gamam Lav Kamam Dami. Mai. Now you have a Shaila. Okay, now Kevin Claren, right? The Gemara is setting up this Eboilu. Mashbiya Eidei Knas. Is there a Chiv Shevuos Eidos on that or not? The Gemara says the Shaila can only stand on two assumptions. First, you have to clarify two assumptions. Number one, you have to assume Moed B'Knas v'chakach Potter, plus Dover Agarnom and Lav Kamam and Dami. That's the only time you have the Shaila. And what would be the Shaila? Mai. Kim the illuminate the mifter. Since the guy, the nitba, could have run to Bezdin, could have been Moed, would have been Potter, Lav Moed Gekofale, so it's not moment. Maybe now, at this point, he wasn't Moed yet, so it's only a possibility of Goyrim Lamaman. And Goyrim Lamaman is Lav Kamam and Dami. So here, we're going to try to prove this Shaila from our Mishnah. Toshima. Ooh, ding, 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 ding. Chatzi nezek. Baba Kabo. Well, chatzi nezek, knosu. It's knas. And yet, what does the Mishnah say? Our Mishnah says that you're chayev. This Gemara says, not so fast. If you learn Baba Kama, and you know all the blatter like Rocky who's filming us, then you would know that it's not so posh. It's a machlokes. Chatzi nezek knosu, chatzi nezek mamayna. So maybe our Mishnah holds maybe it holds like our Mishnah says Chatzin Nezek is Mammon. Asks the Gemara Nichel. That's very nice if you take an answer Chatzin Nezek is Mammon. But but if you say it's Knas, then the Mishnah says Chatzin Nezek Yichayevan. So maybe you bring a right from our Mishnah according to that man the Omar. You see that our Mishnah has to be talking about Chatzin Nezek is always Knas. So you see that you're chayiv, mashbiya de knas is chayiv. So the Gemara says no. There's a case even according to the Manda Omer by Karen, right? Again, let's just quickly recap Baba Kama, right? There's a concept of shartam sharmu. The first 3 times somebody's ox gores, then he only pays chatzin nezek, and the 4th time it's already sharamud, and then he pays nezek shalom. So there's shaila first 3 times. What does he pay chatzin nezek? Really should be chayiv nezek shalom. Halach l'mash b'sinai gives him a deductible of only chatzin nezek, then that would be mammon, because really the chayiv is nezek shalom, or really chayiv nothing, right? Because it's mishuna, right? Karen tam is mishuna. So like then you chayiv nothing. The Torah is mechayiv you a knas of chatzin nezek, right? Because you should have watched your ox better. So that's only in the av of shar, right? Bo avos, right? So the av of shar. And the tam, the machlokes is whether the chatzin nezek has the status of knas or mammon. But even according to Mandamar that says Chatzi Nezek Knasa by a shar, we'll agree that there's another Chatzi Nezek which is for sure mammon, and that's in regel. What's regel? Regel is whatever damages the animal does as the animal walks on the road and kicks kalim and breaks kalim. That's regel. It's urche. Right? That's the way, because it's like you're chayiv right away Nezek Shalom, because you should have watched, you should have expected it, you should have anticipated it. Right? That's for sure. But there's a chiddush called Chatzi Nezek Tzreiros. Tzreiros means that if the regel of the animal didn't come into direct contact with the keli that it broke, it just, let's say, kicked a pebble, and the pebble landed on a keli and broke, that's called tzreiros. So here, Chatzi Nezek, you pay Chatzi Nezek, Allah Chamash B'Sinai, the Hilchas HaGemirula, the Mamaynu. Here, everybody agrees it's mammon. So our Mishnah says Chatzi Nezek, Mashbiya, Eidem, and Chatzi Nezek is chayiv. Chatzi Nezek is not knas over here, we're talking about tzreiros. So therefore you can't prove it from here. But there's another line in the Mishnah. Toshima says the Gemara, Tashlume Kefil. Mishnah says they're chayiv if they refuse to give testimony on Kefil. Kefil is a knas. Gemara says no, Mishum Karna. We're talking about the keren of the Kefil, not the Kefil itself. I have Tashlume Bava Chamisha. Bava Chamisha is also knas. Tavach Hamochar. Yeah, also Bava Kama. Who says Mishum Karna? No, that's also the keren of the Tvicha Mechira, of their Bava Chamisha, which is mammon. Another case, She'onas Ish Ploini Upita as biti, right? Oynas Mafata, where the Torah gives a fixed amount of chamishim shkalim. Anytime there's a fixed amount in the Torah, it's always knas, usually. So here, the Mishnah says, if the Edom refused to give testimony in Oynas Mafata for the father, so they caused them a loss of the chamishim shekels, so then they're chayiv, Mishmashua Sa'edus. Why? It's knas. So you see, Mashbei the knas is chayiv. Gemara says, no, it's not talking about the chamishim shkalim, it's talking about Mishim Boishas Apagam. There are other payments they have to make, or the guy would have had to make to the father, which is Boishas Apagam, and that for sure is mammon. Gemara says, "My kamashbalan, it's kula b'maynu." So now you somehow found a way of kefil, dalad v'hei, oynas mafata, chatzi nezek. It's all mammon. So where's the chiddush? Says the Gemara, "Reish echad kamashbalan, seif echad kamashbalan, reish echad kamashbalan, chatzi nezek tzreiros b'maynu." The reish is teaching you that chatzi nezek tzreiros dos gufa, that's dos alein, that has a din of mammon. And seif echad kamashbalan shehidlik as gedisha b'yom kippurim. The last case in the Mishnah was that a guy's madlik a gadish, somebody else's gadish, somebody else's stack of hay on Yom Kippur. What's he doing wrong? Simultaneously, he's doing two averos. Number one, he's avara on Yom Kippur, which is kares, right? Number two is he's causing a damage, a loss, a monetary loss to his friend, whoever owns the gadish. Now, usually the halacha is kum lebid rabbanei, which means you only get the more chamer einish, right? Whenever there's misa involved, even though the act triggered two einshim, you get the more chamer einish, which is misa, and you are potter from tashlumen. But what if the more chomer einish is not a misa b'dei adam? It's not misa's bezdin. It's misa b'dei shamayim, which is kares and Yom Kippur. Here you have machlikas tanoim. Rabbi Yoel Gold says that you still say kam lebed rabbanei. He says our Mishnah. Lafukim with Rabbi Yoel Gold. This case is coming to teach you not like Rabbi Yoel Gold that you say kam lebed rabbanei and you get kares and you depart them at tashlumen. The Tanya Rabbi Yoel Gold yosi v'kiruka shabbos tashlumen. Ma Shabbos you're chayiv misa's bezdin you depart tashlumen. So to Yom Kippur you chayiv kares you depart tashlumen. Says the Mishnah name. You're chayiv money. You would have been, there's a monetary loss because you don't say kol lebed rabbanei in a case where the more chomer einish is misa b'dei shamayim. That's the chiddush. Okay, weiter in Shas. Toshim amash bein eloichem elo savoy seiduni. Yeah. Shehoitzi ish ploini shem ra al biti. A guy was moitzi shem ra on his daughter. Then chayoven. Then they're chayiv. What do you see clear over here? Mamish klar. Mashbiya idei knas. Chayev. It's a knas over here. Rabbi Moitzi Shemra, it says, V'onshu oisei meya kesef. Meya kesef. It's 100. It's a fixed amount again. It's knas. So these Edom refused to testify on the father's behalf that this guy was Ma'anis, or Moitzi Shemra, Moitzi Shemra and his daughter, right? Spread rumors, false rumors, and now caused them a loss of the knas. You could have gotten the 100 kesef. Right? So chayoven. So that's a riot. If the nitba, this guy ran to Bezdin and was moida, so moida beknas would be potter. So obviously this brisa is Reb Shimon. So the Gemara says, and Reb Shimon, you can't derive from him because he holds that Yavoy Eidu V'Eidu. So it's never a case of moida beknas potter. The whole shaila is if you hold moida beknas potter and Edom don't help afterwards. But if it's Reb Shimon, then there's never the shaila according to him, like we said earlier. Right, because according to him, Edom can always be mechayiv your money even after the knas. So, Ema Seifas, the Gemara says, Haki says, the Seifas says, Haidam Atzmai Pater, Asl Rabbanan. Right, that the Haidah would help regardless of the Eidim. So that's the Rabbanan. So it could be Blazer Reb Shimon as the Ration, the Rabbanan of the Seifa, where it says no color, Blazer Reb Shimon, it's all Blazer Reb Shimon, V'achi Kamar. Leibish Kachas La, Haidam at the Atzmai the Pater, and Lahich the Lek Eidim Klal, the Haidam Atzmai. According to Blazer Reb Shimon, the only time you would have a case of Moide Beknas Pater Lagamri, without any risk of being mechuyev in the future after his Haidah, is if it's not no Eidim. Right, that's what the brisa means to say. So really, you can't bring a raya from this brisa that mashbi'ei deknas is mechuyev Shevuos eidus. Now, by the way, the end of the day, right? The Gemara started after the Mishnah with an aboyilu mashbi'ei deknas mahu, and the Gemara established this aboy according to the Rabbanan who hold moide beknas achakach bo eidem potter and davar garim lav kamamadami. So here's the shayla mashbi'ei deknas. And any raya we tried to bring, the Gemara rejected. Right? From our Mishnah, from this Brisa, Gemara rejected. So we didn't come out with a clear halacha on this Shaila, Mashbi'ei Deknas, whether it's included in the parsha of Shevuos Eidus. So just to clarify that we're not clear in the end whether Mashbi'ei Deknas is Mechuyev Shevuos Eidus. Okay, so the Heilige Mishnah weiter. Mashbi'ei Aleichem Em Lo Sevoyu V'Seidu Shani Koyen Shani Levi Sheini Ben Grush Sheini Ben Chalutza. He tells two Eidim, please come testify on my behalf that I'm a Kohen. Right? Come testify my Yichus. I'm a Kohen. Shani Levi. Yeah, I'm married actually to a Bas Kohen. To a Bas Kohen. I found it on Shabbos. I married already 18 years, but I found it on Shabbos. Is that Taka, my wife's family, are Kahana Miyuchasim. Mamish. So here, this guy, but he has Eidim that know his lineage, and he says, please, come testify on my behalf. Shani Levi, Shani Ben Grusha, I'm kosher la'avoida, the son of a Grusha, son of a Chalutza. So here, Avada, they would be P'tur, and Rashi right away points out. Why? Because it's not on Kfiras Mammon. It's a general rule by Chiyav Shevuos Eidus is only if you refuse to testify on somebody's behalf, and as a result, you cause him a loss, a monetary loss. Here, it's just a status. What if it's she'ish ploni kain she'ish ploni levi she'eda ben grush she'en ben chalutza she'anas she'ish ploni as bitay pitas bitay? Right, you also potter over here. Why? Rashi explains, the Gemara is going to talk about it, that you have to hear it mepia tevei atzmai. Over here, this guy is saying, can you testify on somebody else's behalf? That never works. And finally, shechavu bi b'ni v'shechavu bi chaveri shehed l'kedisha b'shabbos ha'elu p'turin. Those are also potter, because there's a chiyuv misa involved. Come leb the Rabbinai, we'll see. Okay. Zog the Heilige Gemara, Taima, in the first case, the Mishnah, Dishploni Kain, Dishploni Levi, it's only because it's a matter of Yichus and not a matter of Mammon. Vaistois, Hamana le Ploini, Biat Ploini, Chayovin, Oktari Seifa, Chishmei Taveya. It says in the Seifa, the Mishnah later, Lamed Hey, that you have to have Biat Taveya Atzma. We had it earlier. So the Dik of the Mishnah is the only reason why, the only reason why the guy's potter on Ish Plani Kain Ish Plani Levi is because it's not Kfiras Mammon. It's Eidus Yuchsim. But it's more than that. It's not Mepiyat Avei Atzmai. Amar Shmuel, no. Here it's talking about a case of Avo Bahar Shah. He came with the power of attorney. So now this guy is Nichnas B'Mekoim Ateveya, and it's considered as if they heard of Mepiyat Avei Atzmai. So the only reason why they are potter is because it's not involving a financial loss. It's just a matter of lineage of status. Ask the Gemara, really? Arsha? What do you mean? You don't write Arsha on metaltalin on money, only on karka. Right? So here, we're talking about Kohen Levi, that's Arsha. We don't write Arsha on these things. What's it? That's only when they hear that the nitva was already koifer beforehand. Avaloi kafrei. But if you didn't hear that the nitva was koifer, then kazvina, that's the case over here. So mamela is arsha. So as far as the problem of achiyishma piateveya, that's not an issue because he has an arsha. He's b'mokam ha teveya atzmai. The only issue is that it's referred to edus yuchsin and not edus mammon, and that's why they're potter. Tonu rabbanan. Now we get to the mamish, the heart of it. Right? How do we know menayin she'ina kosuv medaber el b'tvius mammon? How do we know Shevuos Eidus is only chayiv when they refuse to give testimony about money, where they cause the guy a loss of money? Okay, so now we're going to have a couple of sources, a couple of makayros from different Tanoim. Rabbi Eliezer says, Nemer kan oyin, v'nemer lalon oyin. It says in the pasuk a couple of oys. Oy 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 Shabbos. It says, v'nefesh kisech l'shama kol olav u'eid oy ro oy yoda. It says twice oy. So there are a couple of oys over here. V'nemer lalon b'shuas b'katan oyin. Ma lalon. Interesting, I would have said oys. Oyin. Malalon einu medaber b'tvias mammon, afkan einu medaber elo b'tvias mammon. Right, so mamish a hekish from Shevuos Eid to Shevuos Pekadon. It says oy twice of it, oy twice over there. So Mela, now I know that it's talking about tvias mammon. The Gemara says, really? Those are the only two places where it says oyin de Ritzeach. What about the parsha of Ritzeach? It says in Besinu Yadavenu oy hishlich olam b'tvias oy be'eviko. It says twice oy over there also. Let that be a chichu shein oyin and medaber shlo b'tvias mammon. It's not talking about tvias mammon over there. So why are you limiting Shevuos Eidus only to tvias mammon because of Shevuos Pekadon? I have another case, and I have another pasuk in the Torah where it says oyin, and it's not talking about tvias mammon. It says donin oyin sheyeshem on shavua, me oyin sheyeshem on shavua, va'al yoichichu oyin deritzeach she'einem on shavua. No, because it's more similar. We're trying to gravitate toward what's more similar in content and context. So oyin deritzeach doesn't have a shavua, so really we're not going to compare to that. I oyin the soita yichichush and oyin v'yeshem on shavua medaber shlo b'tvias mammon. So I have another case of oyin by a soita. Right? It says oy over al ruach kinam. Oy ish asher tabel ruach. It says twice oy over there also, and over there you have a shavua, right? Shavua soita, and also it's not tvias mammon. So let that prove to Shevuos Eidus that even if it's not tvias mammon, you also chayiv. So Gemara says no. Donin oyin sheyeshem on shavua ve'einem on kayin. Oyin sheyeshem on shavua ve'einem on kayin. Still, Shevuos Pekadon is more similar because Shevuos Pekadon doesn't have a kayin. Shevuos Eidus doesn't have a kayin. Both have a shavua, and both are talking about tvias mammon. So that's why we compare Shevuos Eidus quicker to Shevuos Pekadon than va'al yichichu oyin deritzeach she'einem on shavua ve'al yichichu oyin desaita she'al pi sheyeshem on shavua yeshem on kayin. Then the Ritzeach, which doesn't have a shavua, and a soita that has a kayin. Okay, so that's Rabbi Eliezer's makar. How do I know that Shevuos Eidus is limited only to tvias mammon? So Rabbi Akiva Omer. I have another makar. V'oiki yeshem la'achas me'ela. Me'ela, the word me'ela, the letter mem. Yesh me'ela shu chayev. Yesh me'ela shu pater. It's not an all tvias. Some tvias. What kind of tvias? Says Rabbi Akiva. Haketza tvoy mammon chayev davar achar pater. Only if it's mammon, that's when there's a chiv Shevuos Eidus, but not by davar achar. Rabbi Yosi Aglili says, I feel like I'm saying the Haggadah here, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yosi Aglili, right? How many makas with the Yam, how many makas in Mitzrayim? Okay, basically, Eid Oira Oyoda. It says in the Torah, Eid Oira Oyoda, which means Be'edus HaMaskiyavas B'Re'iyah B'Layadiyah B'Yadiyah B'Layadiyah Kosam Adaber. It has to be a kind of Eidus that can be sustained and hold up in a court of law either through Yadiyah alone or through Re'iyah alone. What's the case of Re'iyah B'Lo Yadiyah? Ketzad? For example, by Mominus, you can have Re'iyah B'Lo Yadiyah, Yadiyah B'Lo Re'iyah upheld in court. For example, Re'iyah B'Lo Yadiyah Ketzad, Mominus L'chav Plenty Plenty. Guy says to his friend, I lent you money. And the guy answers, Yuvay Plenty Plenty V'Ya'idu. Bring Adam. And Zuhi Re'iyah B'Lo Yadiyah. So here you have a real idea because the Edom, they didn't know, they saw the money being exchanged from Reuven to Shimon, but they didn't hear whether the money was given b'matana or b'halva or l'pikadon. They just saw the exchange. Reuven took money out of his pocket, gave it to Shimon. That's called the Re'iyah B'Lo Yadiyah because they didn't know how to contextualize that exchange. They just saw it. So that's a Re'iyah B'Lo Yadiyah. Yadiyah B'Lo Re'iyah, Kate said. What about Yadiyah B'Lo Re'iyah? When they hear an Aidah. Right? Mono Deisali b'fnei plenty. There's the idea of to Adam here Aidah, where a guy admits that he borrowed money, but he didn't see the actual exchange, the actual avah. So that's the idea of So here, only by mominus, right, can you fit the two cases of Oira, Oyoda, and therefore that's how I know that Shevuos Eidus only applies to Tvias Mammon. Oh, Reb Shimon Omer, a fourth source. Shimon says, Chiyev kan v'chiyev epikadon. Yechayev on Shevuos Eidus, and Yechayev on Shevuos Sheker by Pekadon. Ma lahalon, Eino medaber el b'tvias mammon, Afkan Eino medaber el tvias mammon, V'oid kavachomer. It's kavachomer. Ma pikod she'asa by nashim kanoshim kroivim k'rechoikim psulim k'sheirim v'chayev al kolachas v'achas v'rebez v'levnei bezdin. Yeah? Einu v'daber al tvias mamen, and it's only by tvias mamen. In other words, it's so expansive by Shevuos HaPikadon, it includes everybody, everywhere, even outside of bezdin. And yet, it's limited to tvias mamen. Eidus shelo yasa by nashim kanoshim. It's more limited to Shevuos HaPikadon. It's only by men, not by women. Kroivim v'loyas v'kroivim k'rechoikim psulim k'ksherim, right? Einu chayev v'lachas v'nei bezdin, only chayev, only v'nei bezdin. And additionally, v'daber al tvias mamen, so that limitation would apply to Shevuos HaEidus, and that is Reb Shimon's makar. Says the Gemara, not so fast. Ma'ala Pikadon, you find the kula by Pikadon that you don't find by Eidus. Ma'ala Pikadon, shekein lo osa by mushba kenishba. You don't find Shevuos acherem shvuah de acherem by Shevuos HaPikadon. The parish of Shevuos HaPikadon is only shvuah de atzmai. Umezit k'shoigig. And you don't find the halach of mezit k'shoigig. Shevuos HaEidus is one of the very few cases we spoke about where it doesn't say v'nelam, the Gemara Darshan doesn't say v'nelam, and therefore it's chayev on mezit k'shoigig. Even if the mamash were mezidin, they intentionally swore falsely, saying ein reyod l'cha'edus, they're still chayev a carbon on that. So you see that Pikadon, it says more chumrus by Shevuos HaEidus. Toimar be'edus shekin also by mushba kenishba, they chayev even on mushba pi'acherim, and also on mezit k'shoigig, and you also chayev on a mezid. So maybe Shevuos HaEidus is even by other cases where it's not monetary, it's not tvias mamen, because you see it's more chomer. Gemara says Talmud learn sechta the Ger Shova. So Gemara says you're right. Kal v'chomer doesn't work. It's a tchias kal v'chomer. And Shimon says, how do I know that Shevuos HaEidus is chal only by tvias mamen? It's Ger Shova. Talmud sechta Ger Shova. Nemer kan by Shevuos HaEidus says v'nefesh kisechto v'shama kololo. Nemer la alon by Shevuos HaPikadon says kisechto emolam al bashem. Ma la alon by Shevuos HaPikadon double tvias mamen. Afkan einu medaber el b'tvias mamen. It's clear. Gzeir Shava, according to Rav Shimon, according to Rabbi Yoel Gold, it's oira oyada. The only case where you have a idea b'leiria, a idea is mamen, and according to Rabbi Eliezer is oyin, right? The oyin, which is learned from Shevuos HaPikadon. That's how I know that Shevuos HaEidus only applies to tvias mamen. I'll stop over here.